You back to another important lecture, and today we would begin with an entirely new chapter. And this new chapter, this is entitled as the gas exchange in the humans. And for this specific chapter, we would be looking on toward that what respiration is, what gaseous exchange is, what breathing is, how many type of the respiration we have with us, how come our respiratory system would look like, and when the anaerobic respiration would take place in the yeast and in case of the muscle tissues, then how we are able to cope up with it. But before I begin with this chapter, there are some of the key terms that you have to be very much clear about, and you may never confuse these terms with one another. Now, the first key term that we have to be understanding is that this is the respiration with us. And as far as the word respiration is concerned, so the respiration is actually a chemical reaction, and that chemical reaction would happen within the major organelles that you have within your cells, and these are the mitochondria. And to these mitochondria, when I would be taking the glucose and the oxygen gas and these two reactants, when they would react with one another, and within the mitochondria, when we would be producing the carbon dioxide and the water and the energy, so this would be the respiration with us. If you were to recall, so this respiration was the basic characteristic that we would have within the living organisms, and as far as the chemical equation for this respiration is to be concerned. So here I have got a molecule of a glucose. This is reacting with the oxygen gas, and as a result of that, we are making the carbon dioxide and the water, and the energy would be released along with it. And moving onward, here we have got something, and this is referred to as breathing. Now, when we talk about the breathing, so this breathing is not a chemical process as a respiration, but rather than this is a physical, or we say this is a mechanical process. And we will see later in this chapter that this breathing situation is due to the working of some muscles and the bones that we have got in our thoracic cavity, and they would assist the entry of the respiratory gases into and out of the body. And majorly, this breathing would be further involving the inhalation process that we have with us and the exhalation process we have with us. So, this means that this respiration, since was a chemical reaction, and this breathing that we have got, this is a mechanical or the physical process. So, these two terms they should be regarded as some separate things, not the same thing. Now, another word that goes along with them, so this would be the gaseous exchange scenario with us. And when we talk about the gaseous exchange, you see that in my previous lecture, I have given you an idea of the diffusion process where we used to have these alveoli present in our lungs, and these alveoli they are surrounded by these specialized blood vessels that we have, and they were the blood capillaries. So the situation is that whenever you inhale the air into your alveoli, and from the alveoli, when the oxygen would go into the blood capillaries, and the carbon dioxide gas would come out of the deoxygenated blood that we have here in the blood capillaries, and when this would come into these alveoli, so this would be the gaseous exchange with us. And the term as itself says that wherever there is exchange of these respiratory gases between the alveoli and the surrounding blood capillaries, so this would be entitled as, or it would be termed as, the gaseous exchange. Now, since we have seen all of this, now the thing is that why do we need this, you could say, gaseous exchange, or why do we need this kind of a breathing thing for our body? Because at any cost to these mitochondria, I have to be delivering the oxygen gas. Why? Because along with the oxygen gas, when the glucose is coming to the mitochondria, so we are required to release the energy out of it. And why there is need of energy within the cells? So multiple processes they happen within the cells, and those processes at any cost they are in the need of energy. If we would not provide them the energy, so such mechanisms they would not take place within the cell, and the entire metabolism of the body would be disturbed. Okay, so here we would see that how come multiple things are happening within the cells, and how come they would be utilizing the energy for those processes. If you were to see, like I have got this nucleus within the cells, and in the nucleus, I have this DNA, and this DNA is being copied on the messenger RNA molecule. So, this is what we call this as a transcription process. So, this would need the energy. At the same time, from our cells, there would be release of the proteins. And by the release of the proteins, what I mean is that when you are producing the mucus in your airways, or when your cells are making the enzymes and they are transporting them or they are carrying them out of the cell. So this is termed as exocytosis of the protein. So this again would be in the need of the energy, we say. Likewise, you see that these organelles that we have with us, so these are the ribosomes, and in the ribosomes, you see that when the messenger RNA goes and this makes the protein here. Okay, so this making of the protein technically is entitled as a translation, and again, this would be requiring the energy thing. Likewise, you see that in my cells, I have less number of thiones. I have less number of thiones. So if we were to see these positively charged ions that are basically written as a sodium ion, so you see that outside of the cell, these sodium ions, they are the charged particles, they are less, and on the inside of the cells, these charged particles, they are more in number. So whenever I would move these sodium ions from their lower concentration to the higher concentration, this is the active transport, and again, this would be requiring the energy that is being released from the mitochondria. Earlier, we have seen in case of the specialized cells that in our body we have got these kind of the cells, and these were the nerve cells, or we were referring to them as the neurons. And these neurons, what they do is that they would carry the information in the body in the form of an electrical impulse. So whenever this nerve impulse transmission has to take place, again this would be in the need of energy. And there are some other way around, like for the growth, for the repairing, for the excretion processes energy is required. So if we are not releasing the energy inside of the cells, then this would create a lot of problem. This would be disturbing the normal mechanisms of the body. So if I were to just simply say that where the energy is required, so this is required in the cells for various cellular activities. Like if I have to bring about the transcription and the protein synthesis, and when we have to release the proteins out of the cells, when we need to bring about the active transport of the ions and the nerve impulse transmission, so all of them, all of these processes, they require the energy, and that energy can only be released if we have developed this specialized respiratory system, and that would bring the oxygen to these mitochondria, and ultimately we would release energy out of it. Now the thing is that since we human have got a specialized respiratory system, so this respiratory system or the gas exchange system, this needs to have some features in it. And that features are important if we want that this gaseous exchange system is working efficiently for our body. So the idea is that when we are inhaling the air, so there is a chance that there would be the presence of some dust particles and there would be the presence of some pathogens coming along with it. So we are required to be cleansing the air. At the same time, whatsoever the air that we are inhaling, we have to make sure is that it must become moistened. Okay, by the word moisten, what we mean is that to the inhaled air, our gas exchange system has to add some water vapors into it so that the inhaled air should become moistened. And when this would become moist, so ultimately my airways would not get dry. Again, likewise, as I have said that we are required to be cleansing the air. So by that, what we mean is that this gas exchange system should be eliminating the irritant or any of the pathogens that we are inhaling. Likewise, you see that I have got these alveoli with me, and surrounding the alveoli, you see that we were having these blood capillaries with us, and the movement of the oxygen out of the alveoli into the blood capillaries and the carbon dioxide gas out of the blood capillaries into the alveoli, it would depend upon that how much of these molecules I have got on both of the sides, and that would depend upon the maintenance of the concentration gradient here. So this is the gas exchange system that would maintain the difference of the concentration between the alveoli and the blood capillaries, and that would keep my gaseous exchange mechanisms efficient. So this again is the role that this gas exchange system would be performing in terms of maintaining the difference of the concentration gradient. Moving onward, the other thing is that our gas exchange system, it should reduce the distance for the diffusion of the respiratory gases. And by what I mean is that if we were to consider that we have got this one cell thick layer, so here you see that the distance is less. So that would make sure that our respiratory gases, they pass over this layer fast. And at the same time, if I were to make this distance greater by increasing the number of the cells, so the diffusion process would not be efficient, as we are required to be overcoming a lot of distance. So this gas exchange system, this would again decrease the distance for the diffusion of the respiratory gases, we say. And in this way, we would ensure that the mitochondria of my body, they are getting an efficient or a good supply of the oxygen gas so that sufficient energy could be released within the cells.